at the Kitchen Studios. This is the Pencil Pushers Podcast.
Welcome, Leadheads. This is the Pencil Pushers Podcast, where we share stories and voices for the love of the hand-drawn arts. We've taken a deep pause because, 2020, but we're back in action speaking with my good friend and super talented artist, Dameon Williams. Dameon's a father of 3, husband of 1, doing what literally most artistic people do, which is working a not-so-artistic full-time job. And at a hospital, no less, smack dab in the middle of a pandemic, while spending most of every other waking moment crafting beautiful illustrations. His art is playful and informative, using his skills to help showcase historical and social elements dealing largely with people of color and beyond. It was great to catch up with him on how he's personally handling COVID-19 through his hospital work, as well as being a concerned citizen who happens to also be African American during this historical moment following the death of George Floyd. So please do yourself a favor and show him some love at Dameon_Williams, that's Dameon_Williams on Instagram, while you sit back, relax, and enjoy our chat. So we're here with my good friend Dameon Williams. Dameon, this is the inaugural episode of the Pencil Pushers Podcast since COVID. It's a relief to be back in the studio and actually kind of sitting here with my buddy Max.
Hello.
And it's like old times, so it's nice to be here, and it's good to be here in virtual world with you, Dameon. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's we're interesting times we're in, right? We're all just doing our okay check daily just to make sure we're mentally doing what we need to do and maintaining. But yeah, all things considered, I'm good.
That's good, man. Yeah, for the listeners out there, Dameon and I have known each other since high school. We cut our teeth in the school newspaper, which was called the High Times, ironically enough. I don't know how that got past the principal's office, but we've known each other.
You just have to spell it with the H-I, and then it's good, right?
That's right. Yeah. But it's funny, man. We had a great time at the with the school newspaper, being editorial cartoonists, and it was basically you, me, and a guy named Steve Savage, who's also an artist still,
right,
doing all kinds of crazy cartoons. Man, that was some good times, huh?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I'm really interested, man. We caught up a couple of years ago where we ran into each other at Creative South. And I've mentioned Creative South, the conference, a few times on the podcast. It was such a delightful moment because we were getting to the bridge to have that big party before the actual event was supposed to start. And I'm just breaking through the line. I gave people my pass so that I can get on the bridge and start grabbing my beer and grabbing my food. And I see you, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? And we hadn't seen each other in years, man.
It has been years.
Yeah. So that was pretty crazy. Yeah. It was pretty crazy running into you, and it warmed my heart, man. You are to this day the same warm-hearted guy that I remember from high school, man. So it was really awesome catching up with you. So, but outside of that, we've hung out a couple times since then, but we haven't really dug into, essentially what you've been up to these days. I mean, you're an illustrator, but that's not your full-time job. That's basically your second gig, and it's largely what you do out of passion. You don't really, you're not doing like paid gigs as much, right? I mean, most of it is predominantly. Right. So talk a little bit about that, man. What are you up to artistically these days?
Well, right now, these days it has been all about social media for me, primarily Instagram. Strangely enough, I may have started along with the Facebook and all that fun stuff.
The Facebook.
I don't know. Yeah. The Facebook. Not so much Twitter, but yeah, for some reason, I already had people on Instagram, and I was doing some stuff, and then the community just grew. And what was still is a side gig, kind of blew up. And I started becoming more of a brand. I'm trying to be, I guess, but
yeah, step into it, man. Step into it.
Hey, man, it's the balance. I know you'll get into this. Initially, it was the graphic design world that I was in out of school, and did that for quite some time. But it was a lot of the 8-hour cubicle, screen staring, and not really even interacting, especially at that point in time. The team thing wasn't.
It wasn't as big of a deal back then. Yeah.
That whole team building, we did some things, but it was really about the individual, and it was great and all, but I personally needed more human interaction because it was affecting my art. For me, I don't know if it's a situation of empathy, but I got to fuel myself with the people, and that right there allows me to get super creative. People fuel me, even if I sometimes can't stand some folks. Ultimately, that's what does it for me. I like people. I love people. I do.
Yeah,
I'm a people person.
I know you do. I know you do. So what you did you go to school for college? Did you go to school for college? Did you go to school?
Yeah.
Did you go to
I
school?
also went to school for high school. Yeah. I went to an engineering school. So I went to NT in Greensboro.
Yeah.
And primarily engineering. That would have been kind of sort of the focus if grades were a little bit better, but it ended up being
whatever do you mean?
Hey, man,
I had a very similar issue, man. Very similar.
I could have been an engineer, but instead,
right.
Yet, funny enough, I was around all these engineers, but they couldn't solve some of the easiest of problems. I mean, my table's uneven. How do we fix it? Well, you may want to stick something on that one leg. Is this engineering or ingenuity?
Right, that's right.
Sometimes it's just about ingenuity.
That's right.
Graduated from A&T in graphic design, and
what was it? What was your kind of like? Were you hoping to? Was the idea that you would be part of a agency, or kind of get out on your own, or what was the situation there?
I was all about agency, man.
Yeah.
The freelance stuff freaked me out, the idea of it, and for me, it's like, I just need to find a place and sit at a desk and do a little bit of that first, and that's essentially what happened. Found a gig at R.H. Donnelly, doing, that was the last little bit of time before phone books became completely irrelevant. So we were doing like the yellow pages, and I would do some of the ads, and some of the ads, but a lot of the text where you just have your name and the address and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
and it was mostly not making mistakes, because people get pissy when their name is misspelled and their phone number is wrong.
For the next 2 years or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for the next 2 years. So, did that for a little bit.
How'd you like it? I mean, did you enjoy it from a creative standpoint?
It was an early gig. It was something that you had to cut your teeth, because I'm green. I'm just happy to work. And it was close enough to graphics. It was what I needed at that time, and I met a lot of great people through it. And it gave me a taste of what a big entity, a corporation, how that whole thing works. So it was cool, but after a while, I wanted to go a little smaller and do it more. And I did find a place that allowed me to do that. But ultimately, that wasn't the greatest fit. So, and that just happened to be during the transition. At that point, I was already feeling like I was getting burnt out, honestly.
What? How old were you at this point?
Oh, geez, 20, somewhere in the 20s.
So you're not married, because you got three kids.
Oh, no,
three
man.
Kids
I'm a young dude. I'm sure I'm young, early 20s.
Gotcha.
Young guy, no ties, no kids, no wife. Just doing whatever I wanted to do, living the life, man. Spending money like ridiculously. But also finding myself a little toasted when it came to just staring at a screen.
It's getting
for
burned
so long.
out.
Yeah, not really connecting with folks.
Now you're
coworkers.
You're a great illustrator. I mean, were you applying any of that stuff at all? Were you expressing yourself that way in any way?
Not so much with both jobs. It wasn't until my third job where they needed a head illustrator and head graphic designer, and I jumped at that. And that right there, I mean, because I spent 14 years at that particular job.
Oh, wow.
But
as the lead illustrator and designer there?
Yeah, as a head designer. But they, at first it was going full time, but then they had to kind of scale back. I didn't really want to leave because they still needed somebody. I'm like, well, I can do that. In my hospital time, position at one of the local hospitals came up, and I thought, well, you know what? I'm doing my graphic stuff. I definitely want to do that. I'm doing my illustration. I'm doing what I love. It's part-time. I could get a full-time gig. I didn't think I'd be in a hospital. I don't know about healthcare, but it is an opportunity for me to grow as far as I wanted people time, and I really wanted to open up and kind of do more, just learn how to be more of a people person, really truly interact with folks. And you can't beat the hospital when people are all beat up or whatever their situation, and you really have to lay out that empathy thing. Yeah. Because I don't think.
What are you doing there exactly?
At that point, they needed somebody to run their wheelchair program. And that was wheelchairs in-house as well as sending wheelchairs home with folks. And you had to build and maintain and specialize a lot of chairs for folks and their different body types.
Yeah.
Okay. But it allowed me to connect with therapists, physical therapists and occupational therapists and doctors and the family members. And it was really cool. Like nothing I've ever done before, but you see a lot working in a hospital, especially, coming from pushing pencils to doing something like that. It's certainly different enough. But even there, people found out that I illustrated, and then a couple of hospital projects, whether they're logos or whatever else, that stuff, it always comes up. Somebody needs something for the kids or whatever else. So it was never far behind, my creative side.
Yeah. So now you have, it's interesting, now we're working with this scenario now. You have 3 kids. You just had a baby girl.
That's right.
Congratulations. That's amazing. She's gorgeous.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
Now we're dealing with COVID, right? I mean, 2020, let's dig into this a little bit. I mean, we got 2020 right now, which is bringing some, we got the pandemic that we're dealing with right now. I mean, how do you deal with that in terms of your job right now, where you're dealing with essentially patients who have COVID?
Right, right. Honestly, in the beginning, for all my time at the hospital, it's just it really is your day to day. This initially was kind of freaky, and I really thought like, man, I don't know if I want to hang around for this one. Maybe I just need to just skip this.
Yeah.
I've done enough hospital time. So in the beginning, it was freaky because, I mean, even right now, we know things, but it seems like it's a day to day. We don't really have a true grasp of what we're dealing with. We are much better than we were in the beginning, but we're still kind of dealing with the unknown, and even more so when you're stationed there. But the thing is, we do what we do, and you get the freak out factor, but then you kind of just like, okay, well, we're here, so let's just handle this. If you have their proper equipment so that you're not going to be infected, your mask and whatever else, then that's all you can ask. You do that, and then you just try to be as careful and smart about everything. You just super mindful. You're washing, you're making sure everything, you're not touching your face, you're not doing any of those things. And you try not to do that anyway in a hospital, but we're human. And there are certain things you don't even think about what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
But it's something, it's gotten a little bit better. The numbers are still very steady. I know there's a rise in different parts of the state. Our numbers are steady. And thank God we haven't lost, as far as I know, a lot of folks, but you do have a lot of sick folks that, they're scared, and you do what you can do to take care of them. I'm in a slightly different position now than when I first started at the hospital. But still, you interact with the patients and not so much the family members, because we really didn't allow them at one point to really come in. You really had to minimize how many folks are in and out of the hospital, and it's still like that. But it's kind of freaky and frightening.
I bet.
You get over it, and then for me, the big thing was not bringing that home. So as soon as I'm
physically or mentally,
right, you don't want neither one of those. And with time, it's gotten a little bit better. I have a routine. I'm coming in, pretty much stripping in the garage, and spraying everything down, and make a beeline to the bathroom and take that shower and wash everything, and then I'm good to go, and I can feed the baby and do all that fun stuff. But it's a routine, just like anything else.
So I'm blown away by people who do this, man. I mean, you get home. You're working at least 40 hours a week, I'm assuming, right? I mean, are you working more than that? Are you working 50, 60 hours a week, or is it pretty much a steady 9 to 5 kind of job?
It ends up being more, not too much more. It may be 46 hours or something like that, because it's always the last minute. I need such and such, and you just can't leave patients like you can leave some kind of artwork that can hold the next day. You got to take care of these folks, because you know the situation.
Yeah, I mean,
you never know. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just curious because for people who, and I encourage everybody to go check you out on Instagram. I think it's just at Dameon Williams, isn't it?
Yes, it's Dameon
E-O-N.
Williams.
Yeah.
DAMEON _Williams.
Yeah.
You will find me.
So your Instagram account is literally your art gallery. In essence, you spend a lot of time on finalizing your artwork. That is, a lot of people just do like sketches or whatever. I tend to do that myself, and I just am blown away by how much you put into that artwork, despite the fact that you have 3 kids, a wife, and a full-time job. But this is what a lot of artists wind up doing, So I think that's pretty fascinating.
It's one of those things, honestly, where kind of like before you have the kids, or before you're you have whatever particular situations where you have obligations when you're young and it's just you, and you swear, oh man, I am just wiped out. I have no time to do anything. Yeah, you learn what that's really about. And you make that time, you grow, experience, you mature, and now it's a juggling act, but nowhere as near impossible as I would have thought, in my younger days.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we got to dive into the moment we're living in right now, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. And, as an illustrator yourself, you obviously, if you see his work, you're obviously spend a lot of time talking about kind of educating people on historical figures. Many times they have to deal with the African American community. It's obviously something that you're really invested in emotionally. You're obviously an African American guy. If I didn't mention that before, you care deeply about this, about the history of your culture. And I'm curious, what do you think about what we're living in right now?
Wow. Well, this is really interesting. For me, it's like I'm between two worlds. I got to deal with everything that's happening because we still very much in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep.
We still have all the, So with the current protests, I do worry about folks.
From a health perspective,
from the health perspective, I'm glad to see as many people as I see with masks on. It really does kind of push the whole protest thing because you have the mask businesses, it's almost otherworldly, but
visually, I mean.
So, visually, and maybe beyond that, with when we have a little bit more space from this, we're very much in the middle of it, so it's hard sometimes to make heads or tails of things, but all in all, as African American, as a male that has two young males that will grow up, and you do worry about things that could happen. They could have an altercation with people in authority, like the police, and how would that play out? Am I raising them right? Do I need to warn them to give them a heads up that the world may not see you for all of the great things that you are, and all the things that a parent has to do, especially a Black parent.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see. It's time for a lot of changes. It really is. Some folks may be thinking that the world is great and whatever they're thinking. It is awesome for a lot of folks, and it hasn't been it has not been hell for me. But I have been reminded of the melanin I happen to have in the skin, and it hasn't been fair. No, you adapt, but still, we can do better. We can certainly do better. And I'm all for that. And I try to educate everybody, Black folks and white folks and anybody, about a lot of the history that we don't necessarily catch in school. And, I'm learning all this stuff too. It's fascinating, really. Yeah. And I try to do a visual representation because I know it'll get attention,
Yeah. How often is this something that people talk about, within the Black community? Do you find that this is something that is, for example, I saw a one-man show by a guy named Sonny Kelly called The Talk. And it's about the experience that a parent, particularly the Black father, who has to tell their son about the dangers about just being a Black man, a Black boy. And
right.
And can you speak a little bit about what that is? Like, what's that experience actually like? I mean, if you could share just on a little bit more of a personal level.
Well, my father was in television, producer and director. So he would see. And I mean, he, of course, grew up at a time where it was, times were kind of rough. It was during the Vietnam era, and he actually worked in television as a young man coming out of high school, left to fight in Vietnam, and then came back to work in television.
Where was this?
Again, this is WRAL.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, in Raleigh, and he was there for almost 50 years. And for me, because he would see this, and because of family members, he had a few brothers that, they've had, ups and downs and some interactions with the law. And so he had experience with through family and through a lot of what he would see on the news.
Mm-hmm.
And what his reporters, just you can't help but see things. And he'd give me that talk and really encourage me to try to just stay as straight and narrow as you could, and be low key about things. And you just have to navigate and be smart and try to stay out of trouble. Really, that was a big thing for me. And if you were to interact with a police officer, we're talking hands and steering wheel, all of the things
laser focused,
because I mean, you don't want to do anything to even be seen as a threat. But honestly, this went across the board with a lot of things, even with at work. These unspoken rules about if you're a black male, sometimes you have to, and if you have a deeper voice, sometimes you have to modify that and match the tone and pitch and range of the person you're speaking to, just so you're less threatening. There's a lot of things you have to do to kind of bring yourself.
You've personally had to experience that. I mean, you got like that kind of sexy TV radio voice, man. Come on now.
Well, I'm not you, but I'm trying. Especially in a hospital where you're trying to be more of a soothing and calming presence there. So it works for on multiple levels with your coworkers and with the patients. But there's, whether it's at the hospital or I'm working in an agency, you just have to be mindful of your position and your presence, just to not be seen as threatening. So, can you be you? Sure, but maybe not completely,
Yeah. What do you think that people could be doing more? I think that they're obviously this massive situation that we're in right now is causing a lot of discussion, right?
Right.
And I think that I think obviously it's very, very welcomed, and I think it's important. But I'm curious as to what you think. There are a lot of people who actually are afraid to speak up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Who want to be allies but are afraid of making mistakes. And
right.
I can't remember if we talked about this briefly yesterday, but one of the things that I've just talked about when I've heard other people say, what more can I do? And the thing that always comes up to me is just, because I've had African American friends throughout my life, and they've made my life richer just because they're awesome people. And so just something as simple as just becoming friends more with with people who are outside of your bubble is going to expand your, not only your information about that person, but just your empathetic nature about where they're coming from. I mean, isn't a large part of it simply just getting to know people that are different than you, who are African American, or what would you say?
Yeah, man. That really is the first step, and it may be a little bit easier than it would have been decades ago, because of the way we are set up at work, and because a lot of our jobs, we do have hopefully a diverse group of folks, but it's not enough to work with somebody that's different looking or different whatever race or whatever the situation. You have to interact and do it a little bit beyond work, and it tends to happen, I want to believe. But if you have the opportunity, go for it. And I certainly do. I encourage a lot of, like, I spoke to one of my coworkers today, one of the case managers. We had a conversation about this, and she was saying that, she's just not a fan of people. She would do this naturally as a white female, and because she cares what the shame factor of what's going on with some folks today, where folks are they feel like they're being shamed into speaking up. Right. And I had a few friends just, they did ask me, how should I approach this? I want to say something, but I'm not for sure. I don't want to offend anybody. So we talk about it, and
what do you say?
Just make the first attempt. Of course, some of they'll write something, and I'll just encourage them. Well, maybe you want to change this or that, but for the most part, they have it in them. And these are people that they have people that they interact with anyway, that know them. Everybody doesn't know them, but a lot of their folks, a lot of the people that they're cool with do. And they're almost a bit, they're afraid, when in fact is people already know what they're about. Yeah. And you're afraid that I'm gonna say the wrong thing, but these people already know, man, you're cool, you're this, that. So often we're afraid of the unknown, but it's not as bad as you think. A lot of people have already kind of sized you up. This is not the first time. They've probably known you for years. Mm-hmm. And I want to believe a lot of folks are like me, and we get it. We're just trying to, you may stumble, you may do whatever, but I get it. It's not
the
a big
intentions
deal.
are there.
It is. And I don't want to add to it. I understand where they're coming from. So just try to guide them. It's and certainly not shaming anybody. I need folks, allies that are on board completely. And I'm not going to feel great if I know that someone backed you in a corner and you just had to, knee jerk say, yeah, sure, I support. No, man, no. If you do, you do. If you don't, hey, you know what? That's you. That's fine. But shaming people into doing anything, control, no choice. I'm all about the choice. And a lot of people have stepped up and have outshined me in a lot of regards. I mean, they are just like, they are committed, man. And it's awesome to see. Yeah. And that's why I feel like this moment is different. I've never seen so many different types of people. I mean, be about it with this.
Stepping up.
Yeah, they are stepping up, and it's
how's that feel?
It's pretty wild, man. It's cool. It's awesome. But you have to take a moment and like, wow, okay. Because at first it was like, how long is this going to last?
Right.
We've been here before.
Exactly. Right.
But you see that it's ongoing. I'm looking at the date now, and I mean, though our days kind of blend together sometimes. Yeah. With everything going on, you're seeing that and it's because of social media, of course. Mm-hmm. That certainly helps it. And I'm reminded through Instagram and through all my creative community and beyond. They're posting their stories and they're talking about this and that and other, and it is something else. It's super encouraging. Yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah,
it's encouraging.
Yeah, I definitely feel that it's good to be uncomfortable. I find it interesting how the year that we're having all this crazy stuff happen is 2020, because you keep thinking about hindsight is 2020, and I wonder what we're going to say about this year come, 5 years from now. But
right.
We've definitely pushed our comfort levels this year with the pandemic, lockdowns, fear of getting sick, fear of dying, and
right.
certainly rolling into the situation with George Floyd and all that stuff that's being exposed now. And my hope is that we be okay with being uncomfortable so that we can learn a little bit more about ourselves so that we can move forward, rather
right.
than just assuming that everything is okay.
No, I'm all of that, man. We've never been in a situation like this with so many different things happening at once. Yes, you have the Spanish flu, in addition to the Great Depression, in addition to, the unrest of the 60s. I mean, we're just putting it all in.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever had murder hornets. That's a new one. But you know what? Why not? You just toss that in for good measure.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's a leap year.
Is it?
Of all things. Yeah, I believe it's the leap year.
Yeah, right on. I have no idea.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
That's the least of our problems.
I'll take it. So how are you rolling into this moment with your artwork? What are you doing with your artwork now? What are you planning on doing? How are you taking this moment to take it, creatively in a different direction, maybe? Or is it just sort of like solidifying what you'd already been building?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that. We had a recent, because of what's going on, a lot of people are out there and they want to give love to fellow creatives or people that they watched or noticed online, and like, hey, you know what? You should check out such and such. And there have been a lot of people of color that have been. My follower count went up quite a bit in no time, really. And it's kind of it's interesting to see that, and you're wondering, like, okay, is this legit? Right. I mean, there are a lot of people now paying attention to what I do, and it gets in your head, like, well, do I have to change? Do I have to, Yeah. But I am who I am. I'm gonna do my thing, and I'm gonna continue doing what I do. I do every February something called the ABCs of February, and I'll go through all the ABCs, and it will be either people or events or whatever, but literally go through all the ABCs and highlight a particular letter and whatever a day. And so of course, it's not February now, but because of what's going on, what I feel like terminology for racism and institutional and a lot of things, because folks have come to me and say, well, you know what, I just didn't know that much about the different elements of racism. I didn't even know it was as big a thing, because I thought we were beyond this, and I'm seeing that we aren't. But how is it still affecting us? So I want to go back in the history and point out the ripple effect. There are reasons why black on black crime is a thing, because of course it is, but it didn't just all of a sudden happen.
Yep.
That's not how it works. There is a ripple effect with everything. So I want to trace all that and see exactly how we got here. Well, all of us. And in examining that, I feel like we can really we can get closer to the answers, get to the nitty gritty. So right now, I feel like in my heart, I want to focus more on that artistically. However, I do it visually, but I still want to, want to throw in some humor, and because I don't want it all doom and gloom or
Super serious. Yeah.
super serious or super scholarly. I want to hit on whatever points I want to hit on, and did you know, and encourage folks, of course, to do their research.
Yeah, what you provide on your Instagram account is a jumping off point. To me,
right.
It is a conversation starter. It's an aha moment, like, oh wow, I didn't know that, right?
Right. It's because like I said, man, it's a lot of this stuff is new to me too. I heard about it, but I didn't really dig deep into it initially when I first heard about it years ago. So I'm like, well, let me do the research and see exactly where it came from. And then sure enough, you hear about things like I did something on sundown towns and didn't even know this was a thing. Apparently.
What is that?
It is. So for early on in our country's history, once we kind of got past Civil War and we did all we're going to do this whole segregation thing. A lot of places wanted to keep folks that were not like them, in this case, Black folks, away from them. Yeah, fine, we live in the same country, but I don't want you to live on the same block. And you had a lot of towns and a lot of development as far as housing that they made it quite clear. They sometimes had the sign out at the city limits. It's great if you're going to work here as a domestic person or whatever. That's great. But when the sun goes down, you need to be gone. You need to be out of here. Otherwise, we may have some trouble. You may have some trouble. And it's often a threat of violence or death kept a lot of people who were, and it was a lot of people of color, from hanging around those towns after hours. And, of course, they got rid of a lot of the signs and different laws were passed and whatnot. But as a result of that, we still have a lot of places that are primarily white or primarily this or that and the other.
100%.
And, there were different things, redlining. There's just a whole history of it that we may not have had any idea of. We're just kind of thrown in this like, okay, well, I just happen to live here, or I shop here, or I do this, I do that. When in fact, there is more to it. That, sometimes it's lost in history, but, we have to unearth those things and talk about it. And if you're embarrassed about it, well, good,
Yep.
If you're embarrassed and something's up with that, or maybe you just didn't know, but just sharing those different things, I enjoy. And that's what I want to focus more on with my Instagram account or wherever I happen to be,
Yeah. As a result of this, do you feel a sense of optimism?
I do. I have a lot of, first off, I see with all these followers, I'm starting to see some of these people I've just met in a day or two through through this platform. And they are liking different things I'm doing and liking a lot of the current things that I'm doing. And they're leaving comments and engaging. And that right there is super encouraging, because I'm looking at all these folks here, and a lot of people don't look like me, but I see that they are, they're engaged and they're asking questions, and they may be interacting with other folks through their little comments and whatnot. And that's cool. It's just, all of this is about just a conversation starters.
Yeah.
I've met, being in the South, man, I've met people that, more or less said, yeah, I'm racist. And I didn't think I was, but when I think about it, yeah, I guess I am. And we've had conversations, and they may not necessarily like me or like the color and whatnot, but we talk about it. And, sometimes you have to be civil to really understand where folks are coming from.
Yep.
And to have these different conversations. And I get the anger and the passion, and it's there for sure. But I'm tired of the cycle. We have to do better if we really want to progress. And that does involve communication.
Yep. Absolutely.
Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great way to maybe close out this session as we get close to the end here. I love what you're doing on Instagram. I love seeing you thrive. And I'm glad that you're getting more followers and you're getting the attention that you're getting now, man. I think you're doing the good work, I guess is the best way to put it, man. And I really appreciate your friendship. And I'm glad we reconnected.
It was meant to be, man.
It was meant to be. Meant to be. All right, brother. Do you have anything else that you'd like to tell the folks, like where people can find you? Maybe we should reiterate that, and what we could maybe expect from you in the next couple of months or so.
Yeah, man. I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue doing what I do as far as my posts and covering history and covering, current events. And whatever, strikes my fancy. I'm trying to do more as far as, because folks have asked, hey man, I want to buy a such and such, or it'd be great to have a greeting card with this image on it, or, a sticker and whatnot. So doing more of the online storefront stuff. So I have Redbubble and I have my Twitter, Dameon Sean 1, at Dameon Sean 1, and of course my Instagram. So you connect with any of those avenues. Go to my website, DameonWilliams.com. You're going to see what I'm about. And you can always connect with me. Shoot me a message, supportive or otherwise. If you do my Instagram, again, Dameon_Williams, you'll find all my other links and other places I live online, and we can connect.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Dameon, I appreciate you, man. And be safe. And hopefully I'll get to see you in person soon and meet your baby girl.
Yeah, man. We're looking forward to it. You can do some babysitting.
You got it, man. All right, brother. Be safe, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Pencil Pushers Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at the Pencil Pushers Podcast for visual representation of our guest artwork, topics discussed, and anything else that contributes to the show. So be sure to subscribe. Tell a friend. Tell lots and lots of friends. Become a leadhead. And we're out.